All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Inside in Tennis podcast on the Believe Network. I'm Mitch Michals. This podcast is available wherever you get your shows. We're on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, to name a few, and the YouTube channel is at Mitch Michals as we enter the turn. I think we're on the Sunday turn. It's a little weird for that, but we're on the turn of the Canadian Open. And joining me now, it's been far too long, TC broadcaster, Emmy Award winner. He's big in DC, as you know, a big DMV guy. Covers a lot of different sports as well. We love having him in the tennis world. Russ Thaler. Russ, welcome back to the show. It's been a minute.
Mitch, thanks so much for having me back. It's awesome to be back on, and what a great time of the year to be doing it.
Yeah, I can't, gear up much more for tennis than this on this runway to the U.S. Open. But yeah, it's good to, have you around LA calling the matches. And I know this is kind of your time, as we were talking about. I had seen you and have seen you at the U.S. Open. I didn't realize till we started that you're approaching a decade of calling those World Feud matches.
Nice big round numbers, right? This will be my 10th year calling matches at the U.S. Open, and God, grateful for every year they invite me back to do it. Same thing with Tennis Channel. Anytime I get a chance, it's just my favorite thing in the world to do. And everybody watching and listening, I'm sure it's their favorite thing too, man. Tennis, especially this time of year, is so much fun.
There's just so much, it seems like day to day it changes, not just the results, but the new storylines that pop up. And before we move on, I did have to mention, because I went back to the archives and I was like, some of my favorite matches and moments this year, maybe selfishly, because I know the party's involved, but you were on the call earlier this year for one of the funniest things. It was when Pegula won the trophy and Knowles didn't know that she was trying to celebrate with her.
That was hilarious because he was on the cell phone, right? He was actually texting the team to let them know that Jessie won. That was awesome because we all know Knowlesley too. So we all got to give him crap about that, and nobody more than Jessie did that. But yeah, that was awesome. That was pretty funny.
You get those light moments that are pretty fun, and we'll see too, kind of how Pegula, how that team goes into the Open. I think this time of year, especially, like we get to Canada, it's the first big stop along the way. The City Open's an outstanding 500, but you have these two master events. You're not really sure, especially the split cities, so you're not as packed, I should say, in the actual event. So a lot of spaced out time to kind of think and reflect. And, for a lot of the top players, as we're seeing, Russ, the ones that did decide to play this event, they're not quite in U.S. Open form. So how has your vantage point been seeing some of these players starting from a little different, baseline than maybe they will be at the U.S. Open?
Yeah, it's interesting because of the schedule, the way it's run the last couple of years, and it looks like it's going to run going forward with these 1,000 series events going more than a week and then bleeding into each other and having a midweek final. The way I look at it is I don't actually put as much stock into losses at this time than I necessarily would when they were just 1 week long, because I think we saw it with Sinner earlier this year. If you can actually win too much this time of year, especially on hard court. I mean, I think we also forget about that too, that hard court's just harder on your body than the clay is. And if you're going to play, I mean, these are 128 draws. If you're unseeded, you got to win 7 matches to win it. If you're seeded, you have to win 6 matches to win it. If you win like Sinner did, and you just win 12 matches in the span of 2 weeks, what's that going to do to your body going into a best of 5 major where you have to win 7 matches? We saw it at Roland Garros with Jannik Sinner. By the way, Sinner, another one, the knee. And so I actually put less stock in results this time of year than I necessarily would have a couple of years ago, because I honestly think sometimes it's even better if a player loses a little bit early, especially maybe in Toronto. I mean, this is a terrible thing to say, but it's true, I think, for the body. If you're aiming for the U.S. Open, if that's like the goal, to peak at the major, winning these 1,000 series events actually for the top, really have a chance to go all the way at the U.S. Open, it's not necessarily the best thing in the world to have to play all those matches.
Yeah, and I would mostly agree with that. I do think for these losses, whatever happens, and it shows you how great the depth, especially on the women's side, is. There's so many great players, but I think you got to take it on a case-by-case basis. Some players, are they looking in form? Are there positive signs? You basically just want to see positive signs. I don't think it's good to go on the flip side and come into the Open with no momentum. But you want to see some good signs, and you want to see some things. And yeah, it does show you, right, that you could be world number 1, you could be number 2 or 3, even in a tournament, even in a schedule like this, even in a long drawn out tournament. And some of these round 3, round 4 matchups are not layups or cupcakes.
No, no. In fact, they're awesome. The round of 16 for the women in Canada is insane.
Yeah.
Like, the men's draw is much more blown up than the women's draw at this point. And I don't want to get into too many specifics because I know this is coming out after matches are being played. But, Ben Shelton is, when we're recording this, still defending all the points he won last year in Canada. And that's a big deal, I think, for Ben. But yeah, for the women, holy moly. I mean, some of the matchups are just insane. Sabalenka going down, I don't think actually that's a good example. I don't put a whole lot of stock in Aryna Sabalenka losing earlier than she'd like to lose, obviously, in Toronto at this point, because I'm not sure she necessarily needs that match toughness. Now, on the flip side, Tommy Paul, big summer, right? Wedding coming off. I think Tommy could use some matches. And I'd like to see him, for his sake, win a few rounds in Cincinnati to get some more matches under his belt to get the gears going. So that goes to your point. We're like case by case. It depends. Francis Tiafoe, I don't think we knew, at least I didn't know that he had a cyst on his hand. Right. And that really freaked me out when he retired in the middle of the match because, hand, wrist, anything. But if that's one of those things where you can come back from, but Francis needs to make a run. Again, case by case. Francis is the guy I'm really rooting for because I think we all know that, and he's talked a lot about it, is that he made a concerted effort to do all the right things, right? To not be the life of the party all the time and to really hunker down and put his bet first. And I think he's done that. So I would love for Francis to see some real payoff on that one at the U.S. Open.
I agree. And he's also it's an even year. So maybe it's time for Francis because he kind of does better on the even years than the odd ones. But no, last week, I'm trying to remember when it was. I think it was last week. The weeks all blend together. But, Robbie Koenig basically said his coach and working with Mark Kovacs, who he's known for a while. It was look, if this is going to happen, the speech was these are non-negotiables, and Francis bought in. So he was serious about, you're at what should be the prime years. This is the time. So I want to see him back on the court. I do think, though, with Sabalenka, and I agree, like Alexandrova's beaten her before. She can match power with her. I think for Sabalenka, though, and this is my, not worry, but looking at the concern, right? Like, does she really care about keeping the #1 ranking as much as a slam? I would say no. I think Rybakina's on her heels, but Sabalenka's issue, and it's a great issue to have if you're a great player, is that she judges her years by slam results, and as great as she's been, as consistent as she's been, she's still looking same spot as last year, going into a U.S. Open, last slam of the year, trying to get your first one. So that might be the pressure, and it's a dangerous game because it's like an all or nothing game. Like you go into this U.S. Open, Russ, I do think she's the best player when she's playing her best, but I'm wondering if that's starting to weigh on her a little bit because we've seen the last couple tournaments, she hasn't been able to get to that standard, even in majors, that outrageous standard she'd set for herself.
I think it's a great point, and I also think it's the way we're now going to define the rest of Sabalenka's career because I think if we're all being honest with ourselves, and I know Aryna probably is too, she should have more majors than she has. For as dominant as she has been week in and week out on the WTA Tour, there should be a much bigger name next to her number in the majors department, and history is going to dictate where she's seen, in that sort of historical pecking order. And if we're being honest, because we're living through it week by week, right? Yeah. I think she's a better player than her major count suggests. Yeah. And she needs to rack up more. She should. Here's the problem she has, though, is there are other women who are absolutely capable of winning those majors. I mean, you could say the same thing about Coco Gauff. Coco could win more majors, and maybe,
True.
like, so it's true. But Sabalenka is in a weird spot because she has dominated the top of the women's sport the last few years in an incredible fashion. And you know what? Iga was on that trajectory too. And Iga has sort of fallen off that. And she's trying to get back to that. But look, it's not too long ago that Iga seemed unbeatable. I mean, shoot, we didn't think she could play on grass. And then she just whooped everyone's butt at Wimbledon last year. So that's the problem I think Sabalenka has, is that historically her legacy right now, what's written down, isn't as good as it should be.
I think part of that too. Yeah. And I think part of that is, 100 weeks at #1. That's a rarefied air. But her record in finals and major finals comparatively isn't that great. Her percentage isn't that high, and that's when you're going to feel as a competitor that you left some on the table. What separates Sabalenka from even someone as talented as Coco Gauff is her consistency has been unmatched. We haven't seen her, she loses the Schneider and Roland Garros in that match. That's shocking because she just doesn't do it. Hasn't done it in the last 4 or 5 years. So I obviously think there's still time. I think you can go back to when she makes mistakes. When she loses these matches, she reverts a little bit to the past couple of years where maybe she goes for too much. Shot selection isn't as pristine, but that's also Russ being targeted. When you're number one, you're getting the best shot from everyone, and that's how it is.
And Sabalenka, and let's be clear about Sabalenka, she is an all-time great. Period. But there are levels to that stuff, right? And that's just the way it goes down. Yeah. And when the first line is usually how many majors did you win? And that's just kind of what we do in tennis. And Sabalenka is lacking in that category compared to her week in and week out, performance.
Well, one of the things we saw, as we record this today was Elena Rybakina win, beat Samsonova in 3 sets. Very interesting match, I'll say. The first 8 games had 5 breaks. I would have never called that in a million years, that those two would just be exchanging breaks early. Rybakina rallies in the third, wins that match. Russ, it's crazy because she has not played anywhere near her best. I think she's still not looking fully right, but she's in the tournament. She's finding a way. And if she wins this, she'll be exactly 4 ranking points behind Sabalenka, assuredly kind of getting to that number 1 ranking. So it's like the two sides of it, right? On one hand, I think she could play better, needs to play better to be a U.S. Open champion. But I am impressed that she's finding a way to win when her best stuff clearly has gotten away from her.
I mean, in a weird way, if you're just using a sliding scale, we could probably have the same comments about Rybakina that we do about Sabalenka, and that Rybakina's game is so good that she should have won more Wimbledons by now. It feels like.
Yeah.
She could. Rybakina is at that level if she could keep that level. Her athleticism is top of the sport. Rybakina, for her size, her speed and dexterity, and her hands, and she can play an all-court game. I think it's a little underrated. I think when she was younger, I think we looked at her as this tall girl who had a killer serve, but she is so much more than that. I think we all know that. And again, Rybakina, that's Sabalenka's problem. You have Rybakina, you have Jessie Pegula, you have someone else like
Naomi coming back.
Naomi, who has proven, I think Naomi is an incredible case too, because Naomi has to be in that first tier of favorites to win the U.S. Open, the way she can play on hard courts. And that's, and her form. Naomi's getting back to Naomi Osaka, is she not? That's how I
agree. I completely agree with that statement. It's the most match fit and physically fit she's been. She's finding comfort out there. It's funny because, again, we won't know what happens with the Leylah Fernandez match tonight. I think that might have been, last year with Vicky and Boko, the Canadian crowd kind of got to her. I think she won't really have that issue being beloved in America, so she won't have to worry as much there. But what I've noticed with Naomi is a lot of it, and it sounds cliche, is the mindset. Like, she is going into these matches. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe she's just not putting as much pressure on herself, because whatever it is, she's feeling pretty comfortable out there. Winning matches when she's not starting great is the other thing. It hasn't gotten away from her. So yeah, if I'm counting on one hand contenders for the U.S. Open, Naomi's getting a spot.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I know that when this comes out, that match will be over, but that's such a fascinating match that's coming up between Leylah and Naomi. Leylah coming off one of her most impressive performances, I think, that we've seen in a while, totally dismantling Andreeva.
That was tough. That was tough from the other side, because and I like Andreeva. I think that she's got all the potential to win more majors, get to number 1, but it's pretty tough to, the number 1 thing is tough when you're going to have performances like that, when you have a coach, a Hall of Fame coach, that's giving you instructions and you're just looking the other way intentionally. It's tough to have those performances, almost somewhat consistently, I say, because she'll look good and then sometimes it'll just unravel.
Yeah, and I think too many good examples of young players, especially on the women's side, who have broken through and consistently kept their level, have kind of skewed the way we look at it, because she's still really young to me. And I look at her, and not only do I know she's young, chronologically, but Mirra Andreeva seems very young still, and she acts very immature still, which also gives me great hope that once she reins that in, because nobody stays the same. Once she kind of grows up a little bit, and I'm talking about emotionally more than
Yeah.
anything else, because she's a physical specimen and an athletic wonder and obviously a major
Yeah.
champion. But once she reins it in, look, there's a little bit of Sabalenka in that too, right? Where there's a wildness to her that has to be reined in. Aryna learned to embrace it. And I think to your point before about major finals, I don't have a problem with her going for stuff because that's her game. If she's going to lose, she loses like Aryna Sabalenka. Andreeva seems to go off as if like there's a petulance and there's also like a defiance of her own talent at times. But I think that's stuff that will come with maturity because her game is so good that I can see her. But to get back to Leylah and Naomi, they've played twice and they've both gone long 3 sets. They play so differently. Like their games match up almost perfectly. It's like a yin and a yang. It's the power and the counter punching and absorbing of pace of Leylah Fernandez. I mean, we also, I think sometimes because I'm calling that match and we forget about the run that Leylah made at the US Open when she lost to Emma Raducanu. But her run in a lot of ways was a whole lot more impressive, just like the scouts that she took out. And Sabalenka was one of those people where she was dead to rights a couple of times, and so was Naomi. She was dead to rights a couple of times. Leylah has a thing about her when she plays up, right, to the level of her competition. I'm fascinated by that match and to see what happens. But I think to the point I think we started with, if Leylah wins that match, I don't take Naomi out of those top 5 favorites at the US Open. I think she's still there. The way she's looked, it's taken really good players to beat Naomi Osaka. Like that's the other thing. Like she doesn't lose particularly often to players who are below her level.
Well, if Naomi wins, she plays Rybakina for the first time in her career. A matchup I'd like to see personally.
I want to see it. Yeah.
I agree with that sentiment. I don't look at a loss as a detriment to her. I also kind of just think that in a weird way, she's handling the power players better. Beat Aryna, has maybe a power player better. It was Muhova. We'll see with Leylah if this is a tricky matchup, but
it is. I think matchup wise, it is tricky for her. But if we see Rybakina and Osaka, that's like strength on strength. Like that's just going to be
it's like a quick draw, like an old Western movie.
Totally. Like don't expect to see a lot of long points in that one.
No, definitely not. More with Russ Thaler here on the Inside in Tennis podcast. We're talking Canadian Open with the broadcasters calling matches on Tennis Channel and covering the game at a very, very elite level himself. Before we get to the men and some storylines there, just want to also bring up it. You talk top players. Could this be where one of them finds herself, and that's Iga Swiatek, who beats Marta Kostyuk? And Russ, was probably the weirdest match of the year for me because Iga won exactly 1 point on her serve in the first set and then wins somewhat comfortably in sets 2 and 3. So that's the type of win. Like we all know how bad the performance was in the first set. But regrouping and winning sets 2 and 3 and winning going away, that's kind of a new thing and a new cool thing for Iga.
I am fascinated and kind of always have been for a while, but more and more fascinated by Iga Swiatek. I can't figure her out, but that's part of the gig. I'm not sure she can figure herself out. And I actually like that about her, that she's so obviously trying to figure herself out. What makes her tick? And then she's talking about trying to be more patient on the court. And that's what Francisco Roig is sort of trying to hammer into her, like work the point. Like you don't have to end things quickly. Everything doesn't have to be done perfectly. You can reset within points. And Iga's one of those people that she got to the top of the sport to the point where she seemed unbeatable for at least a short amount of time. And then she fell off of that and it affected her in a really big way. And she's been honest and open about it. I'm just fascinated by Iga Swiatek. I kind of root for her because to me, she's all of us trying to figure out life and trying to figure ourselves out. Even if we all try to fake it to a certain point that we know what we're doing, Iga's just out there being like, this is who I am and I'm trying to figure it out too. And I really dig that. I always have about Iga Swiatek, but to your point, like Iga could run away with the US Open. Like would it surprise you at all if Iga won the US Open and didn't lose a set? Because that's like the most Iga thing. Like that's the thing.
She hasn't made, so this would be, hasn't won a title since Wimbledon last year, made a final during the Asian swing, but like we're really not seeing her in the win circle. And I mentioned that 7 by her name just looks weird given where she's been ranked.
Yep.
She is a confident player, which is why winning yesterday the way she did over Kostyuk, a player that had just drummed her in Roland Garros, was impressive. Because I still hold that Iga is like the best downhill player maybe in all of tennis. When she gets a league, it's just going for the chokehold, and that's it. That's how she wins Wimbledon. That's how she wins her tournament. So I think winning the U.S. Open would surprise me, maybe just given the fact that we hadn't seen those signs before. But her being back in the mix is a great start. I think the serve obviously is going to be scrutinized for obvious reasons, but you see what she can do on a hard court, even like how she moves, how she dictates points, how her backhand is thumping. I'm still a believer. I just don't know that I would believe her to figure it all out this year, but I'm still a believer at her age with her slam count that she'll right the ship and be a factor again.
I think because of Wimbledon last year, I don't put anything past her. I think that's,
Yeah.
I think Iga has proven to me like I shouldn't write her off because of like current form. The serve is something that kind of freaks me out. Like, because there are
Yeah.
like 5 different motions within her service motion where you can kind of see the wheels turning every time. And it's the one part of her game where you can look at and be like, how is this person almost unstoppable at times and has a serve that she still doesn't seem to understand what to do with it? You know,
The
like
other thing, the other thing, Russ, too, is that I just do think the depth of the game's gotten stronger in the last couple of
oh,
years.
for
So
sure.
the route there is going to probably be trickier. Like she had Eala in the third round at Wimbledon. Like that's pretty tough work. So, but again, lucky things could happen. Top seeds could happen. She just avoid Ostapenko, just get her away from her, and then maybe we can talk about it. But
And that's one of the strangest things in the
yeah,
last 10 years. And so Ostapenko like will not show up against other people and then just doesn't lose to Iga. It's odd. Anyway.
styles make
Yeah.
fights.
Yes.
On the women's front as well, how have you been reacting, and what's your takeaway from the phenomenon in sports known as Alexandra Eala?
Okay, I have a lot of thoughts because I've actually
Okay.
been texting with a bunch of different people about the Iala thing. One of them is one of my closest friends from college who happens to be Filipina, and it has turned her family into this massive tennis fan. So that's like, just another example, right, of what Alex is bringing to the court. It is amazing. I think Jessie Pegula in DC sort of laid the blueprint on how you handle playing against Alex Eala. Even if it didn't go her way, she won over the whole crowd with her generosity and her sort of just generosity of spirit. And I think Caty McNally rightfully, and by the
Yeah,
way, good on Caty McNally. She's dealt with so much. She was
I
playing
know.
great
She's playing
in
the
that
best
match.
tennis of her life, and for her to say that, like, thanks for letting me be a part of it, was really classy and really
It
cool.
was so cool, right? And like so, and I think Jesse laid that marker down. Like this is how
Mhm.
you deal with it because you're about to gain millions of fans. Like and really, like I was looking at the YouTube video of Jesse's post-match press conference in DC, and all of the comments are Filipinos saying how much they love Jessie Pegula.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
basically because of how kind she was
right.
to Alex. And Caty McNally, first of all, again, I'm so happy that Caty McNally's out playing. She is such a great athlete and a
hmm
terrific tennis player.
Yeah,
And I can't believe she doesn't have a sponsorship. Like she was wearing clothes without a sponsor. And it's like somebody get on that and put Caty
hmm
McNally in some
yep,
clothes for the US Open because she could easily make a run.
yep.
By the way, same thing with Taylor Townsend. What the hell are you doing, people? Pay Taylor Townsend to wear your clothes. TT is
Yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah.
But no, I think here's the Alex Eala thing. I think she needs to lose soon. I'm really worried about her mentally and physically going into the U.S. Open
So this is an
because
interesting one too, because I agree, and I know it's not the same situation, obviously, but on the men's side, people are starting to say that about Hodar. That like you play a lot of tennis, it might be good to have a reset. I know there's difference with the Ala, and I'll let you get back to
Mhm.
that, but there is positives in maybe the reset, take a break, like get that loss out of your way, so it's not just building.
I think she needs it. And not only physically, but physically for sure. Every match she plays seems to be like a death match, right? It's just sort of the way it goes because she
Yeah,
can't hold serve easily. She has trouble serving matches out. And that I hope will come in time. Like her serve is so slow that it's a weapon at times.
yeah. But what a
And the
fighter, though, right? Winning those three
right.
setters, like,
Totally.
yeah,
She wins. It's amazing. And even she is saying it. The emotions she's feeling are so extreme right now that that affects you physically too. And I think for tennis sake, because I'm trying to think big picture for tennis, right? Tennis really needs Alex Eala to win a few matches in New York. If
hmm
like, look, she's going to be on show courts. It could be Armstrong. That could be like her home court. Remember, like Taylor Fritz pretty much had Armstrong as his home
Yeah.
court. I could see Armstrong being a home court for Eala and all the Filipino fans because of the general admission up top. So it's
Mhm.
actually a more like people's court than say Arthur Ashe Stadium where every seat is sold. Not that she couldn't sell out Ashe too, but maybe
Yeah.
they do. But there are players ranked higher than her that might deserve to be
Yeah.
on Ashe more. But I could see Armstrong being her home court if she can get 3 rounds in and just have the madness happen in New York. But I worry that the gas tank emotionally and physically will be empty by the time and also let's not forget, she's going to be being pulled in about 1,000 different directions when she
Yeah.
gets to New York City for every sponsorship opportunity you could possibly think of.
Yeah,
And
it's going to be tough. It really is.
it really it reminds me a little bit of the year after Andy Roddick won the U.S. Open,
Huh.
and his face was everywhere, and he lost early that year. And I worry, Andy could speak on this certainly more than I could, but from the outside looking in, it seemed like there was just a lot. And Alex is dealing with a lot. And I think first of all, she's wise beyond her years. She is obviously different, right? She's made of different cloth than a lot,
Yeah.
but she's also human. And I'm rooting for her to be healthy through this whole thing.
Right.
And for tennis to really benefit, I think she needs to win some rounds at the U.S. Open. And for that to happen, I kind of think losing sooner than later would not hurt.
So I do agree with that. And I think from the positive standpoint, I think she being wise beyond her years gives me positive signs that when she does hit a rough patch, which happens to every tennis player, that she will be able to handle that because she is so she has such a great perspective on things. The other thing, and she's dealing with stuff on a global level that's not comparable to anything any other tennis players do, and given the pressure that's put on her, but it's been so nice to see her level up into a conversation of can she contend, can she get in the mix to go all the way, which has been great. And Russ, the last thing I will say about Eala, I think she's done a remarkable job of knowing when to use the crowd, when to get involved, because you know this as well as anyone. If you're just constantly using the crowd, your emotional battery will be drained quickly. I think she's smart about when she goes to that part of her game, and I think it's been paying off in spades.
We saw it against Caty McNally. You just give a little hand if she needed just a little juice, right? Like, just come on, give me a little bit here, and the crowd obliges. But you're so right about it. She's super smart about when to use it, and also not to one up her opponent, and not to sort of try to get the crowd going against her opponent. This is all for her. She doesn't do it for show. She does it to help her win, and she never does it at all in a way that would seem disrespectful to the person across the net, which is why I think you're seeing part of at least the reason why I think you're seeing the players who lose to her reacting the way they do.
Well, we'll see. Belinda Bencic is a former champion. It's been over a decade, but Bencic has won here before, so maybe that will be the end of the road, or maybe it'll keep going on, and we'll see what happens with the Eala Mania. But on the men's side, before we get to what's going on with the rest of the National Bank Open, I just wanted to get your reaction to the news that broke today that there won't be Jannik Sinner in Cincinnati, a knee injury. We had heard reports that were released about him going under test for knee discomfort, but aside from that, Russ, they've been pretty mum on the details of what exactly it is and how serious it is. So initial reaction to no Sinner at all in any of the tune-ups before the U.S. Open.
Yeah, not great, obviously. I don't think in my mind it changes the way I feel about his chances if he feels 100% going into the U.S. Open. I still think he's the favorite over a returning Carlos Alcaraz. If Carlos, by the way, we don't even know if Carlos is actually playing the U.S. Open, right? Like we haven't heard definitively whether, and the wrist is always, a big bother. And I would think if he's not 100%, I would actually say don't do it, Carl. Like if he needs to sit out the rest of the season, like I'd rather have a healthy Carlos for 2027 for tennis than another injury to him. And the same thing with Jannik Sinner is, look, I'm not a fan of this schedule, and I don't know who is, and I don't know how we put the toothpaste back in the tube, but I think they really messed up.
Yeah,
I think the tour, and here's the other thing. But I'm also excited for the tournament directors, like in Toronto and Montreal, they get extra days. I'm excited for Cincinnati, which is going to be an incredible event, and and Ben Navarro and his team put so much effort and so much money into revamping the facilities, and it's going to feel like a major. But here's the thing: we only have 4 majors, and we're kind of messing with them now, you
Yeah.
know? And I that's how I kind of feel. Like the only one that feels safe is Australia, because everyone's coming off the off season and you don't have back-to-back 1,000 series events running into them. And Wimbledon too, but Wimbledon's the short turnaround from Roland Garros. So I just, look, I'm saying that without an idea how to make it better, except turning back the clock, which no one's going to do. I'm just kind of bitching and moaning, like I think a lot of people are, but I think we're all kind of realizing, like, yeah, this was maybe not for the best of the sport, or at least for the best of the players, right?
Yeah.
Like the players are suffering because of the schedule. And also the game has just become so freaking physical, and there's no turning that back, right?
No.
Like everyone's getting bigger, faster, stronger. The equipment is better, and the recovery systems are better. The technology and the medicine is better. The game is better, right? The level of tennis is amazing, but it's just really hard for human bodies, right? Like
The last part,
it worries me.
Yeah, the last part, we might have some older former players that might push back on the game being better. Like a higher level versus better. It could be semantics, but
I'm talking from a guy who calls matches from first round through the end of tournaments. So I'm watching the overall level in the last 10 years or so that I've been doing this consistently.
Yeah.
From the first round on, the overall level of tennis is better from the first round on. It just is. And those guys, and we work with some of those guys, you can make the argument about top 10, top 20, top 50.
Right.
I can buy into all that, but the overall level of tennis is better.
I think, hopefully glasses half full. This is precautionary. We don't know if it is just like, hey, you're not feeling 100, the Open's ahead. Okay, let's sit out. It is weird that, it's crazy in a way that you have the top 2 players that are going to go into the U.S. Open without any tests, and we haven't seen a person win the major without doing that in over 35 years or whatever it is. So how could that not be indicative of the schedule being too crowded and too much tennis being played? I mean, that's just a basic leap in terms of where we are. So I hope that we figure out a way to prioritize player health and make sure that these players are available, because that's the one thing, Russ, that's going to change things, maybe swing the pendulum back, is the lack of player availability. And if the top players who don't need the money and don't need the ranking points are saying it is better for me not to play, we have a problem. Like that is not a good thing.
And it's interesting too, because like Sasha Zverev caught a bunch of crap for losing early in Canada, because look, he's got the #1 ranking within his sights now, but also he's got to be looking at it being like, look, Jannik's pulling out of Cincinnati. Carlos, we don't know, is coming back. If he's coming back, the U.S. Open could be mine to have. Like he could go from 0 majors to multiple majors within the same year, and kind of change the discourse on his career too at this point. And losing it early in Canada might not be the worst thing in the world for Sasha Zverev, even if the opportunity to get to #1. Again, he's another guy. I think for his legacy, I think he needs to kiss #1 once. He needs to find that 1 in front of his name. I think that would change a lot of things for him. He's already won the major. I think he needs to win another.
I think it's one or the other. I think he's got it.
Really?
I think it's one or the other. I think 2 majors without #1. That puts you in a class for me. I mean, I think he's probably done enough to knock on the door of the Hall of Fame. We'll see. I mean, this era, it's how it's going to be judged with a certain number of guys winning all the slams is fascinating. But if he gets #1 and does not win another slam, depending on the weeks, obviously, I think there's a chance.
Look, if he gets #1, if he gets to #1, you'll put him in the same argument with Medvedev, right? Hit #1, got 1 major. The difference is Sasha week in and week out has just been a better player. Like
for sure.
Like his overall resume is so stacked that I actually think that winning that major put him in the Hall. But for tennis wise, there might be some other considerations coming on with Sasha Zverev, but that's for another podcast. But I think I think just for himself, the way his career's been, he's a guy that kind of should be #1 at some point. Like he's played well enough that he should be #1, especially now with Jannik and Carlos having injury issues during his prime, when he's winning his first major, when he won the major when the other guys weren't around, when he got to the finals and lost to Jannik. If the two of them aren't in the same spot, I think that U.S. Open, he should be a major favorite going into to the U.S. Open.
Third round last year, lost to
I know.
Felix. So he doesn't have a lot of points to defend. So that could be
No,
good.
and that
thing
number
too.
one ranking
Yeah.
is in sights because of that. And by the way,
Yeah.
Felix is another guy because of
I
his
know.
run last year at the
I
U.S. Open
know.
should be feeling confident or at least
Yeah.
encouraged, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think Felix, coaching change, we'll see. But yeah, he should be feeling encouraged. Well, a couple more things with Russ Thaler here on the Inside in Tennis podcast before I let you go, Russ, as we look at Canada again. We're not sure where it's going to go on the men's side. We've lost a lot of seeds for not playing or upsets, but still a lot of young talent. I think it could shape up for a really exciting semifinal run, given the names that are in and the lack of Masters experience, right? We know that Ben Shelton and Fonseca will play, and Shelton's trying to defend his title and get another one. He's a slight favorite in that matchup, but just from the Fonseca perspective, I kind of think that there's a motivation of what Hodar's been doing to kind of be like, okay, like we got another young guy on the block, and knowing these tennis players, they want to be the best, and they want to be the best, but they kind of also want to be the best in their era.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. The Fonseca thing is fascinating to me because I worry a little bit that Fonseca could be on a Rublev sort of trajectory,
Mm,
where his game sort of maxes out at a certain level. But then again, we've seen flashes, but then we've seen flashes from Rublev. I I actually think Hodar has a bigger toolbox, and when he actually becomes more comfortable moving forward, he's going to be even more dangerous.
mm.
Um, can we talk about the story that nobody talks about with Rafa Hodar? I mean, I was personally involved with this. Do you know what
Which
I'm talking
one?
about?
Which one?
This is Rafa Hodar's college career. So the last several years, I've called the ACC men's and
Yeah,
women's tennis
yeah.
championships. Does
Okay.
anyone talk about what happened to Rafa Hodar in the ACC championship match, the
No,
team
I don't
championship
think
match?
so.
Do you
I
know what
don't
I'm
think
talking
so.
about?
No, go
Okay,
ahead.
so a couple of years ago, his one season with the University
Okay.
of Virginia, he
Yeah.
was clearly on the ascendance.
Yeah.
Uh, he was amazing, played number one for UVA, and that's a team that, was fantastic. He won national
Right.
titles with this group and everything. But the ACC championship match between Stanford, traditional ACC power, of
Yeah.
course,
Totally.
and
Yeah.
University, it's the All Coast Conference now.
Yeah.
Paul Goldstein's team
Yeah.
over in Cary, North Carolina, they're playing in the team championship match, and it comes down to the number one court. And Stanford's team is sitting on the side with a low fence, and they are heckling Rafa as college. And by the way, the UVA team is on the other side doing similar to Stanford's guy. And late in the third set, he gets broken. Does Hodar?
Okay.
Fires a ball at the
The
Stanford
fa-
kids and hits the low
Ooh.
fence and gets immediately defaulted. And that's the end of the ACC championship. Boom. Stanford wins the ACC title on a Rafa Hodar default for firing a ball at the Stanford team that was heckling him during the match. He was 18 years old. He was despondent about that afterwards. Coach took him out
Wow.
to ice cream the next day. I mean,
Wow.
it just speaks to how young this guy still is.
Yeah.
He's
Wow.
he's 18 months removed
He-
from. Remember, this is a guy coming over from Spain. The college experience is new. Being heckled during a match is not normal for someone grown up in Spain. Or anyone really, until you get into the college, D1 top of the level. Actually, it happens at all levels of college tennis. But no, it's a story that no one talks a lot about. But it's like
Wow.
the growth of that guy to go from that point where he got defaulted in the finals of the ACC team championship, that lost the team championship for his team, to the point where he just now is dominating the ATP
Yeah.
tour is insane.
It
But
is.
to your earlier point, like, how much can his body hold? Like, now he's 19. Yeah,
yeah.
like
I
how
just-
much can that hold up?
I don't want to get on my soapbox about maybe some of the issues I have with college tennis and some of the behavior, but I understand, and that's a great story for sharing. It does show you how young he is. I think we've seen him have a little bit of an edge. I know some stories are overblown and out of context, but I think that's good. I think you get to a certain level and you're in those pressure moments, you want to be true to yourself and play the way that you can. I think Hodar's passion for tennis is pretty evident, given the fact that this is his first year. The professionalism is off the charts. It's a one-person entourage, just him and his dad, and he's able to grind out wins tournament to tournament. If he makes the ATP finals in his first year, I mean, that's uncharted territory in its own right. I think there's tons of room to grow Russ, and I think that there's really, we talk about these players. It's hard to know what the true peak of someone is at 19.
Right. Hmm.
But Alcaraz fired that first warning shot, beating Tsitsipas at 18, like in the U.S. Open. At the very least, this year's been a smashing success. I do
Oh
wonder
yeah.
what the next elements of Fonseca's game, of Jodar's game are going to be. Arthur Fils, who Jodar's playing next, that matchup, another
That
one.
match,
So,
man. Feast is
you know,
another guy, right? I would put Feast in like maybe the second tier of favorites. Like if Feast
mhm.
won the U.S. Open, it wouldn't be like a complete
No.
shocker if he got to a
And I'll,
semi or a final. Like, well, you watch that guy play. You watch
yeah.
Arthur. I mean, he hits the ball harder and with more spin than anybody on tour.
Yeah. Well, could you
He's
add like
incredible.
could you add someone else still in Canada, Jakub Mensik, to the list?
I'm calling that match tonight, and I'm
Hmm.
really looking forward to see where he is because you forget that that guy's 20 years old, right? Like
Just under
he's
the
already won
radar.
it.
Just
He's
under the
always
radar.
he already won a Masters 1000.
Hmm.
He's still top 15 in the world. It's not like he was a one-hit wonder in Miami and went away. This guy has results week in and week out, and we don't talk enough about him. He's another guy who can take the racket out of players' hands and just look too
Yeah.
good at times, right? Like
Yeah.
you're right. What the level of tennis is rising. This is another reason why I think the level of tennis is just rising and rising. It's going to be harder and harder, I think, for Alcaraz and Sinner to keep their chokehold on the top of the game, not just because of their own physicality and health, but also because of just how good these young guys are becoming, and they have so much upside, right?
Yeah.
Like there's so much room to growth with Mensik and Fils, who's still incredibly young, and now Rafa Jodar and Joao Fonseca, and the list, honestly, Lerner Tien, throw him into that group too, because
I
Lerner's
was so
another
wrong
guy.
about him. I've admitted that. I've made peace. I've made amends, but I was very wrong about Lerner's potential. And
As a
hand up,
lefty,
I caught it.
he's like my favorite dude to watch.
Hmm.
I just love watching that guy play
Yeah.
because to me, he is like Marcelo Rios 25 years later, right? Like
That's
that's
what Jan
like,
Michael Gamble said. That was the direct
oh, really?
comparison.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
I love Jam
Yeah.
Mike too, but I
Yeah.
love that we agree on that because he
Yeah.
reminds me of the Rios game just in a more modern era, right? Like it
Hmm.
was just a different time. But holy crap, that dude's hands, but he can absorb pace, he can inject pace, he's got a bigger serve than you would
Yeah.
think. And clearly the dude's got the mentality to win tennis matches because week in and week out, Lerner Tien has proved to be a really hard
Hmm.
out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting for Sinner and Alcaraz.
Yeah.
They're going to have to keep evolving and adding things to their game. And that's the cool part about this. I like and appreciate Sinner and Alcaraz, their Hall of Fame careers already, but it's nice to see new faces. It's nice to see new rivalries build. You want to see the best players pushed, how they respond when they're knocked off their pedestals. So yeah,
Totally,
I think
Mitch. I just want to add. I want to
yeah,
add one thing too, because every
yeah,
time you mention Carlos, I can't help but think Yannick's amazing, and Sinner obviously like he raised the level of sport. He and Carlos, I think,
hmm,
raised the
hmm,
collective bar in tennis.
yeah,
But man, we could really use someone with the juice of Carlitos. Like
yeah.
we have one, and that's not really a knock on Yannick. It's not his personality.
No, that's
I
true.
just we need one more. We need one more sort of iconic personality at the top of the game too. I don't know who that is. I don't know enough about Joao Fonseca to know if that's his
He's got the
personality. I
flair
don't get.
on the court, and I think with the Brazilian passionate fans, that could be something. But I don't know. It's so tough. Like it got
Because
over my
Carlos, it just
over
sort
my
of
shoulder.
oozes out of
Like
him,
if
right? It's like
like if Hodar becomes like Pete Sampras, are we going to say that's a bad thing? No. But some people you don't want to force personality on people, but it is
no.
good to
I
have
want someone
charisma.
like who
Yeah,
naturally just
yeah,
jumps off the page.
yeah,
I think the women's game has more of it than the men's at the moment.
yeah,
Is that fair to
yeah,
say? The women have
yeah,
more like naturally charismatic, like
yeah.
page turners, I think, than the men
I
do. And
think
that's not
so.
a knock. It's just a personality thing.
Yeah. Well, the women are good bet to have 4 different slam champions for the second straight year.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
there's the pros and cons to all that. But Russ, obviously this has been fun. We're gonna let you go before you gotta
Yeah.
call these matches. But any final thoughts on the men's side and the women's side too? How you think you don't have to make direct predictions, but players you expect to see advancing on and see maybe on
I
Thursday.
I'm going to say what I want to see as a
Okay.
tennis fan. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is not like a personal favorites or this is more as a fan of the game because I root
Yeah.
for the game, actually. I want Ben Shelton to defend his title
Okay.
in Canada just because I think Ben to what I was saying about Carlos, Ben has it. Whatever it is, Ben has it. And if he could get back to New York, Ben, like Francis does, I just think Ben has a higher level in his game ultimately at this point than Francis does. That's, again, that's just me saying that. I root for Francis too because he has it. I root for the guys with it. So I'm rooting for Ben to defend his title, also to keep the ranking up, to keep him in that same position that he's in right now. I'd like to see Ben do that. And then, gosh, just please get healthy, Carlos and Jannik. I just want Carlos and Jannik to get healthy. And yeah, and other than that, it's so much fun watching these guys play. And on the women's side, I think it'd be really cool if Naomi could pick up if she could come back and win this tournament this year in Montreal, where she got to in Toronto, where she got to the final, in Montreal last year, and wasn't, and I don't think she was either. I wasn't thrilled about the way she handled that either in the immediate aftermath of that. I feel like Naomi's in a better place this year.
Yeah.
Just listening to her post match and watching her play a lot, I think it's good for tennis if Naomi Osaka is right near the top of that. So I would love to see Naomi Osaka win in Toronto and Ben to win in Montreal for tennis.
Before the Eala Mania took over, I would have said, and I might still say, but at the top of the game, Naomi Osaka is the best superstar in women's sports, I think, just given what she can do and everything. So, yeah, I'm with you there. I think she's in a better place. Coco won as we're recording this, so she's into the next round. So we still have a lot of star power in that side. And, yeah, I think if it's not Ben Shelton, it's a good call defending it. Needs to get back on track after a lackluster European summer by all accounts. If it's not him, then yeah, one of the young guys, right? If it's Jodar,
look, if it's Jodar,
if it's Fonseca, if it's Mensik getting another one, if it's Lerner, I mean, that's a story too.
All good for tennis. Yeah, all of it. And honestly, if Coco wins, it's good for tennis. I mean, that's the other thing. Like Alex Eala's, I think, the biggest shining star right now in the game. To go all the way back to the beginning of our conversation, if she wins this tournament, amazing. I'd actually like, if she wins this tournament, I'm sorry, Cincinnati, I'd like to see her drop out of Cincy.
Well,
she won't do it.
This is perfect because this is the perfect way to end it as well. Because I want to see Eala continue to grow as well. But I know, one of the things we learned last time when you were on the show years ago is that you're a big pro wrestling fan. And I dabble with it as well. That if you were going to book the women's U.S. Open final, I think Eala's in her own category. It's something else. Coco Naomi is probably the money match that I think they would love to see.
Yeah, I think so. Coco Naomi. Man, Eala is Obafemi if you're watching pro wrestling these days.
It's so new.
It's so new, and everybody is into it, and it draws you into it. But yeah, like for the history and the build, I think Coco and Naomi would be incredible. And by the way, could happen, right? Like
could very well happen.
They're in that handful, right? You put 5 people as favorites on the women's side: Coco and Naomi, and Aryna Sabalenka, and maybe Rybakina and Iga, or Rybakina and Jessie, or I think it's Rybakina and guess the 5th. That's how I kind of feel about it. But yeah, that'd be amazing. You know what's the best about it, Mitch? There's so many good storylines that can come out of this that I'm kind of cool with however it is, as long as it's good for tennis.
Yeah, opportunity knocks, right? Top players on the men's side are out, but these young guys have stepped up and give themselves a chance for, outside of Ben Shelton, the biggest title of their career. So can't wait. Russ Thaler, always a blast. We'll be watching you on Tennis Channel, following along at the U.S. Open. Thanks for coming on the show.
Mitch, thanks so much, man. Appreciate the time.
That was Russ Thaler. This was the Inside in Tennis podcast. Reminder to everyone out there listening, it's available on Apple, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, all part of the Believe Network. Just search Inside in Tennis podcast, subscribe to the show so it's automatically downloaded to your listening device. And you can subscribe to the YouTube channel for full video episodes. The channel is at Mitch Michals. Leave a nice rating, comment, interact. We love to have that. We appreciate every listener and viewer. For Russ Thaler, I'm Mitch Michals. This was the Inside in Tennis podcast. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll talk to you soon.